So we should probably talk about skill-based matchmaking at some point. We didn't get to talk about it last time, and I wanted to. Yes. Because Blame Truth came on podcast. It was talking shit, and I wanted the chance to respond to it, and we just never got to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So like when Blame Truth came on here, he referenced a video that I did with Sandy Ravage and a conversation I was having with him about skill-based matchmaking. And in that video with Sandy Ravage, which was very clearly a video between two people that like each other. I have never had a problem with Sandy. To my knowledge, he's never had a problem with me. And I made a joke in that video about how him supporting getting rid of skill-based matchmaking made him more like Donald Trump, and me supporting skill-based matchmaking made me more like Bernie Sanders, which was a part of an ongoing gag that I had with Sandy. Like, we would constantly make these stupid political jokes. And that joke didn't even make any fucking sense. It was just something I said off the cuff.
That makes sense to me.
Your friend Anthony, Blame Truth, whatever his last name is, fucking took me literally, which you got to be the dumbest motherfucker in the world to watch that video and think, oh yeah, he's serious. So I just wanted to clear the air.
Or perhaps he's trolling
good name.
to get a reaction.
That's what I thought for a while. But
I think whenever you attribute 3D chess trolling logic, usually people don't deserve it.
I think he took me seriously. I think when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
There's only one way to find out.
We got to get him on both at the same time.
By the way, Blame Truth, whatever you're doing in the algorithm, I think it's working pretty well. I keep getting recommended your videos, and frankly, I've never sought them out before, but every day. Getting another video of you complaining about Call of Duty every day.
Rage bait, COD Rage bait crushes on YouTube.
Yeah, it really does.
Just crushes.
And I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. He in his videos, he very much hates the game. That's not me dogging on him or anything. Like, I think he makes a video every day about how much he hates the game.
I sincerely believe he hates Call of Duty.
I do too.
Like
I do too.
He's either winning an Oscar or he genuinely hates this fucking game
for like 14
I hate it too.
years
He's
now.
preaching to the choir.
That's why you're there watching the video.
I have struggled with clinical depression for a good portion of my adult life, and that shit looked so depressing to me. Like, I cannot imagine playing a game that I fucking hate over and over and over and over again.
Let me tell you what happened today.
I imagine
2022, there's so many good fucking games. I don't have a lot of like sympathy for that anymore, because there's just so many games that you can play now.
I had this thought process today. Today I took my dogs out for a walk, and then I came back in and I saw that 3 of my good friends were playing Call of Duty at 3 in the afternoon, and I was like, huh, do I want to get on and play with them? I'd like to talk. And I was like, no, you don't. I don't want to play this game. I have nothing. No outcome will be fun to me. And I was like, I'm not going to play.
And you don't have to.
Want to play. I'm done. I'm done. I'm not going to play it anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
I asked Kyle to play Magic with me.
You might play after
regularly.
the show.
Like the big thing that like about skill based, and I don't even play COD, so I'm a truly neutral observer. I was totally indifferent to it, and then until Kyle told me like, and sometimes like in order to get a group of people good enough, your connection gets shitty. And like, if that is the case, like, connection should always be prioritized over everything. I feel like no one's, even whether you're a noob or not, nobody's having fun with shitty ping, like missing people because of that, you know? So if it's like a prioritizing of connection, I can see that as a complaint.
That's not, I want to get my criticism in before Hutch chimes in as an expert.
Good. At this point, I've heard every conceivable argument against skill-based matchmaking, and they're all stupid, in my opinion.
Oh, you didn't like mine? I'm pretty convinced mine's a good one.
I don't know if you're making I don't know if you're making an argument against skill-based matchmaking or saying this is your preference, because I think those are two different things. Like, if somebody says, I want to be able to pub stomp, or I want to be able to play with my friends and it not be an issue, playing with my friends who are better and have it not be an issue, or if somebody says, you know, my ping suffers a little bit, I'm gonna say all those things are valid. But it's when people, and particularly content creators, leverage their social media influence to like try to get some movement going with the expectation that any of these AAA studios are going to take it out of their games. That's when I'm like, okay, this is delusional. Because these decisions that are made in terms of matchmaking parameters, and it's going to be different for each game, because like they optimize differently. Maybe they're targeting different demographics, or, you know, hardcore versus casual. That's going to be different. And if it's PvE versus PvPvE versus PvP, you know, like these things are obviously PvE doesn't factor in, but these decisions that are made on the back end by these studios are entirely data driven. They are moneyballing the fuck out of your experience with Call of Duty. And one of the things that they do, one of the things that is really integral to optimizing your playtime and player retention and their churn rate is matchmaking parameters. And all of these studios are going to tell you the same thing because they're saying that they're all seeing the same data. They're like developers have only recently started coming out and sort of somewhat talking about their reasoning behind skill-based matchmaking because it trends on Twitter every other week. And so there's like all this pressure, and these devs, these fucking poor devs are getting harassed, like legitimately harassed, like death threats and shit like that. People are just taking it like so insanely far. And so now you have studio like Respawn coming out and making a statement like, listen, you know, we love community feedback, but we stand behind our devs. And, you know, and then you had Fall Guys in their Discord channel in June straight up said, look, we understand why experienced Fall Guys players are having a bit of a tough time during this transition because they're not winning as much. The matches are more difficult. We can sympathize with that. But what we observed when we didn't have skill-based matchmaking was that people who played the game and just got stomped in the first round over and over and over again quit the game, uninstalled the game, and never played it again. And from the perspective of a developer, this is obviously an unacceptable outcome, especially if they can influence that in some way. Yeah. And Destiny came out with a blog a couple months ago, Bungie did, where they talked about how skill-based matchmaking or lack thereof was impacting their game. And like, I have some questions about like some of their decision making because they just keep going back and forth, it seems, in terms of like how they implement it, if they implement it. So even if you don't like the consequences of skill-based matchmaking for you personally, and as far as like the ping goes, listen, I'm a fucking coastal elite fucking piece of shit. I live in Los Angeles or close to it. I never have games that are above like a 35 ping ever. Like ever,
it's rare. Honestly, it's rare for like I'll have it, but some of the players will have like 200 pings sometimes because they had to find Emilio Estevez of South America to like come and pwn me. Like, oh yeah, he can stand against Vọte, and we've also got an Eskimo from up north who can take on Dirty. And we've got a burn victim from Georgia who'll play Kyle at low ping though. He doesn't mind at all.
If you're playing COD with like people, a mishmash of people all over the country, that's obviously going to present some difficulties when you're doing matchmaking.
Why can't can you use a VPN to like spoof your shit and like lock your region?
Yeah. In fact, a lot of content creators will lock their region to like Egypt. Yeah. And then they get these like 0.5.
Is Egypt the good one? Because I've been using Singapore and it doesn't help a lot.
You've been using like Japan like an idiot.
Yeah. No, there's I got a thing called bot lobbies because Vọte was talking about it I think it's more used for Warzone. I don't even know if it helps with this, but one thing I have been able to do is lock our region to like the southeast. Yeah. Like I'm not running anything through Singapore actually or Thailand because it just won't work. But I am locking us to this region now, so we don't have to deal with that ping anymore. But the fact that I have to pay $5 a month for a VPN to do that is a little annoying.
Yeah, that's what a lot of content creators. There's also another way you can exploit it where you can, and this is just the nerdiest. Like I play fucking video games for a living, and this is the nerdiest shit I've ever fucking heard of in my entire life. You make a bot or an unused Call of Duty account.
Smurf account
on the same or on a different PlayStation. So let's say you got a PlayStation 4 because there's like cross-platform or whatever, and then you join you add your main account to that one, and then you join a lobby, and then you join off of your bot account, and then you like it's the steps that some people are willing to take just so they can beat up on players that are worse than them is just mind-blowing to me.
Well, you and I both know. Well, Art, if anybody's doing that to pub stomp, you're a fucking loser. But if you're doing that to make a pub stomping video that's now going to make $750 and you're going to make another one tomorrow and the next day and the next day, then
I can understand the financial benefit of doing something like that. I just still think it's just fucking nerdy. And then like you can't extrapolate your experience or the pressure that you feel to churn out gameplay videos. You can't turn around and then tell developers like you should specifically cater your fucking game that sold tens of millions of copies specifically for people like me, just to make my job easier as a content creator. That's absurd. That's just absurd. So like all these content creators that have launched this campaign against skill-based matchmaking, it's just so
But I don't think that's their only point. I think that they're also saying, hey, the reason I became a content creator is because I fell in love with Call of Duty. And the reason I fell in love with Call of Duty is because I used to go in there and I didn't know who I was going to face off against. I didn't know if it was going to be the best of the best or the worst of the worst, but I was bringing my A game, and every now and then, man, did I shine. And now they're like, every time I step up to the plate, it's the best of the best. They had to develop $1 billion algorithm to find players this quickly to take me on, and that's what they did.
That algorithm fucking works. It pays dividends. When you look at the top 10 most played PlayStation games, for example, on any given month, it's like the only 3 games that don't have skill-based matchmaking are games that it's not even really fucking necessary, like Rust or GTA 5, like who gives a fuck if there's skill-based matchmaking in that game, or Minecraft. And then every other fucking game, Dead by Daylight, FIFA, Apex, COD, Destiny, well, I don't know. They're kind of like back and forth on that. But like literally like the bulk of all multiplayer games now, because all the studios are doing it, they all saw the same thing. They didn't have the type of data collection abilities that they had 15 years ago. And if they had those abilities that they have now back then, it would have been in the game. I promise you that. So I don't know. One of my personal life philosophies is nostalgia is a fucking burden. Like I just don't, I don't like spending a lot of time thinking about, I like to look forward and kind of live in the present. And
that's fair. That's fair. But I still think you got to like judge what's in front of us with a, like what's going on here every now and then with the skill-based matchmaking. Everything you said's pretty much I agree with, like as far as like a company's standpoint and making the most money, like that all makes sense. Having the biggest user base, the most active user base.
They make the most money because they're making the most amount of people happy. This is the thing that I think a lot of content creators don't understand. They think that the majority opinion is that skill-based matchmaking sucks, when the reality is 95% of the people that play fucking Call of Duty have no idea what that word means. Yeah. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about? If you walked up to just random people on the street and said, hey, when you play video games, would you prefer a fair competition of somebody who's like roughly of the same skill, or would you prefer like complete blowouts? 95% of people are going to be like, yeah, I think I prefer fair. If you go to like a pickup basketball game and one team just squashes the other team, what happens in 9 out of 10 instances? They swap players around and then they make the teams more balanced and then they fucking play again. No, like very few people, except for would-be pub stompers, aspiring pub stompers, prefer blowout matches. It's just not how human beings fundamentally operate.
And I will say that from the content creator's perspective, the viewer wants to see blowouts too. Like they are getting feedback from their viewers that say, well, 30 and 14 or whatever. Like, what the fuck? I want to see an XCal style 61 and 2 double. Like,
just to be clear though, like it doesn't exactly work, because when we play, we still stomp the shit out of them. It's just that I'm getting left behind.
Same. Like the thing that I'm like confused about. I'm like, it doesn't feel very strict to me. Like there's still some matches where I get the fucking shit kicked out of me.
Someone on our team talked shit to Dirty last night because Dirty had been using pistols, and Dirty was like, he didn't do well.
United Front.
Someone on our team gave Dirty a hard time. Like, oh, I did better than you last game. Dirty's like, well, fuck you. He killed like 70 or 80 people the next game. He apologized to the other team and they said it was okay. Like a genuine apology. It was silly. They were spawn trapped the whole game. He had 4 chopper gunners. Like it's a shit show. like they still shit on people. Like it's me that gets left behind. That's what I'm complaining about. So it's more for the mediocre player. He's the one stuck in the middle.
And I get that. I'm not going to tell you like you're wrong because you say you have a bad time because your games are going to be like much harder. If you have someone who has like an invisible MMR rating of 100 and they're playing with someone who's got an invisible MMR rating of 25, the game's algorithm is going to try to match you up with an average lobby that's somewhere in the middle. Yeah. So the better player is going to have like a much easier time, and the worst player is going to have a tough time. And I'm not going to tell you like, hey, you should have fun. You know, that's like, obviously, like, if you have a preference where it would be looser, it's like, I understand having that preference. But if they loosened matchmaking parameters, now all of a sudden, there are a lot of people that solo queue Call of Duty. And there are a lot of bad players that solo queue Call of Duty. I think the median KD for Call of Duty is like 0.8. It's like, that's where like the bell curve is. And these people are all going to have a really shitty time if they have to play against people like me or even people like you. You say you struggle, but you would shit on a newcomer, like a newcomer to the series. And so if your argument is that, you know, I want them to loosen matchmaking so my friend who's worse than me can have a better time, but also fuck these people over here, they're going to have a much worse time. It's like you're applying one standard to your friend, or you wanting the developer to apply one standard to your friend. And then
I want them to get out of the way of progress.
So there's much larger pool of players. It just doesn't make any fucking sense.
I'm a businessman doing business, and I see a lot of red tape between me and those noobs. That's all I'm saying. That's all and they could go play it. The argument that I would love to make is like, have those casuals go play their own. If you want to like play ranked, and if you want to like,
that defeats the whole purpose though, because the skill-based matchmaking it exists specifically to keep casual players playing the game longer. That's why it exists. And so if you got rid of it in a casual playlist, you're defeating the entire purpose of. That's why almost every game that has casual and ranked, skill-based matchmaking is still present in casual, like for obvious reasons.
Well, like if they made it separate, wouldn't everybody, like all the good players, would just be playing each other in the non-skill based one?
Yeah, and that's the other idiotic idea that I hear. Okay, we'll just create a playlist without skill-based matchmaking. I'm like, who the fuck is going to play that?
The good people.
It's all going to be like 1.5 to 2.5 players just hoping for your easier lobbies, and it's going to be 10 times sweatier.
It's going to be like a dating app with all men. Yeah. Where all the hot babes at? I was promised.
There are just like so many like blatant contradictions in people's logic when they criticize skill-based matchmaking that it just blows my mind. I'm like, do you hear
the connection thing still resonates with me, and that like it feels like for a video game, like whatever, like if skill-based, like if the connection's the same, fine, like do the skill thing if that's what they want to do. But like you shouldn't ever get in a game with shitty connection because of this. Like it should have something built in where it's like, people are going to have more fun losing by a bit more if they're not like, I hit that guy. Oh, my gun shot 2 seconds late. Like, because when I remember the worst times I had in Call of Duty, it was that.
Oh, yeah.
It was connection shit. It was one bursting a guy that you were positive you hit, and then you're glitching all over the top of the map. Like
in my experience, that happens way less with the recent titles. Way less.
And I have not played COD in a long time.
Do you guys remember World at War? Do you remember how fucking laggy that shit was? Do you remember like even COD 4, like how fucking crazy laggy that shit got?
Remember everybody when World at War came out and like the YouTube scene and everything, everybody quit it except for Wings after about a week and went back to COD 4.
The game sucked.
Everyone's like, this sucks. There's tanks that you can't quick scope.
It was laggy as
I
shit.
forgot about the tanks. How did I forget that game?
That was one of the worst things.
It really depends on where you live. I read a statistic that like 85% of the United States lives kind of somewhat close to a major metropolitan area.
Yeah.
And if you're a part of that 15% of the country that lives in more remote areas, like I sympathize and I feel bad. But it's like they're not going to put like a fucking COD server in a 500 square mile radius where there's
I agree
not
with
that many
everything
people.
you said. Like what they're doing is making the most money. It's serving the most people the best experience possible. It's just what I should have done is kept my word the first time I refunded the game. But they tricked me but everybody was like, no, you're gonna want those attachments for
you refunded
DMZ
it and then bought it back.
And he lost the pre-order stuff, I think.
That's the other thing too. People treat the matchmaking system like it's like some mature Manchurian candidate shit. Like it's a predatory matchmaking system. They're manipulating you with your algorithm to play. It's like, what the fuck are you talking? They read this patent or this like there's like companies come out with 1 billion patents every year that they don't use, and so they looked at this one patent by I think like EA, and it had to do with like instead of SBMM there was a proposal to do EOMM, engagement optimized matchmaking, which is something else like entirely, but like if the game is responding to your stats in real time, so it used to be that it would go from your lifetime stats. You know, you have a KD, and once you get enough kills, it's kind of hard to change that KD. There's like a big, and so you're kind of always in that range or whatever. But that's not how human beings work. Some days you have bad days. Maybe you got a fucking headache that day, or you're tired, and you just play like shit. And so what these games now do, for the most part, is they react to your stats in real time. And these people think that this is an engagement optimized matchmaking, and that the game is sending you into all these like matches that are predetermined to be the outcome. And so they're like, you have one good game, and then it throws you into 3 shitty games. It's like, well, how does that work mathematically? Because if they're doing that with everybody, are you telling me one, like, that's like, you know what, the math doesn't make any sense there.
What is EO?
I think I know the solution. I would like to know more about how their specifically the skill-based matchmaking algorithm works. I want to know what it weighs and measures. Like, is it score per minute / KD?
They're never going to tell you.
I need to know the ratio. I need that formula. That's important.
That shit is protected information, and if it ever got out, somebody would get sued into oblivion, because if they ever got into specifics about what they'll give you like vague stuff, like the Fall Guys example that I gave you. He said like, this is what happened when we did this and this, but they're never going to tell you like, we're measuring this and this, but they are measuring every conceivable variable you can imagine. They're imagining.
But I want to know how there can only be a handful that they're actually using, and they're going to be like weighed. I want to know what they're weighed more or less. It's going to be score per minute per player, and it's going to be KD per player, and maybe like what their KD in the previous match was. So I bet we can experiment and figure it out. I think
measuring
that
maybe how much time you spend in the menu. They're measuring how long it takes on average to get a kill. They're doing that for each map. They're measuring how long you use a certain gun. They're measuring like what your KD is with this gun versus that gun, how that impacts your, and they're constantly, and the other thing too is that they'll never tell you is that they constantly run A/B tests all the time without telling players. I've had developers from all kinds of studios reach out and talk to me about like the specifics, but they'll never like tell you. But like they will loosen matchmaking parameters without telling anyone. And then they look at their churn rate, they look at their quit rate, and they're like, well, it went up 15% when we loosened it that much, and
I'll tell you where
20% and we did it that much.
I'll tell you where I have like
our revenue commensurately decreased or increased as a result of that.
Everything he said about the matchmaking is accurate, though. Like he's right. They're just moneyballing it, making as many people happy as they could. Yeah. I mean,
well, of course they're moneyballing it. Yeah.
But also, I really like to hear that. I'm sorry, I cut you off. The conclusion of the "you're being like Trump right now" side of it. Like, I didn't know that it was in jest. I was a fool who took it at face value. And Hutch is like, we've been making "you're like Trump" jokes for months, and to take it like it's serious and say that I'm that much of a liberal cuck or whatever, like, you just
got to host a debate, but about anything but skill-based matchmaking. Like, I don't want to talk about
Hutch and Blame Truth are not tight.
And you realize that they're not friends, right? That they despise one another.
They seem like enemies.
Yeah, I did. I guess I was just putting a lighter spin on that. But I thought they were friends like 12 years ago.
No, I don't think they've been friends for quite a long time. Those are they have very different ideas about the way things ought to be, and no, they've always very much disliked one another, I would say.
Really?
Skill-based? I didn't know they like disliked each other prior to this skill-based. I didn't follow any of the drama like as it was.
I mean, that's just how it seems.
Oh,
but I know it's not in jest. Like they're not kidding around. Like I'm every video that Blame Truth makes is about how he hates Call of Duty, though. They really are.
I mean, if that's what's getting him clicks, it makes sense why he'd continue.
I've watched a couple of them. I like them.
There you go. Now you're gonna keep.
I mean, I agree with him. I hate it too. I just want to beat up on some noobs. I'll admit it. Like if I can find a way to like scam the system and get like put up against noobs, I'll do anything short of actually cheating. Like I want to beat up on the worst players I can possibly get. I'm not going to go through the trouble of a Smurf account like he was talking about, where I'm joining my like second account that's retarded. I'm so bad at the game that I'm already, when I play solo, I'm fine. Like when I play solo, I'll go like, I don't know, like my good game will be like 25-5 or something. Like, oh yeah, that was a great one. But then when I play with them, I'm going negative a lot. I'm going to play tonight. I'm going to do it. I've gone back and forth 3 times. I'm looking at
like not 2 hours ago. You were like, I'm done. I'm not playing this shit anymore. This is dog shit. I'm over it.
It's fucking annoying. I just want to play with my friends. That's what it really is. I just need a new game to come out so I can get them off of